Good evening, everyone. So, when I was about 20, younger, much younger, fresh out of my teenage years, I had a characteristic that really clung to me, followed me around everywhere I went. At that time, I used to think this characteristic was something that made me who I was because it was such an integral part of my being that I could never see myself without it by my side, taking part in everything I did and everything I said. What was it then? Well, I'll call it impulsiveness because, that's its name. Although for the longest time, I called it authenticity or even originality. I don't know if you've ever had the unfortunate opportunity of being followed around by such kinds of characteristics, which logosophy calls deficiencies. These negative thoughts that insist on bossing us around, on tilting our actions. This impulsiveness, oh, how much I've suffered with it. It used to disguise itself like a pro, especially because I already knew it too well. In reality, today, I understand that I wasn't aware of what was going on in my mind, and therefore, impulsiveness dictated the narrative. It gave me false impressions or sensations. It gave me confidence, confidence to speak. Of course, it was a false sense of confidence because it annulled my will to think. I didn't allow any time for my thoughts to organize themselves into words to be spoken. It was a shield because on many occasions I ended up hurting people because of it. And instead of trying to make it right, what did I do? I blamed it. I said, but that's how I am. I say whatever comes to my mind. It stopped me from reflecting on the bad things that happened in my life, making me dive into a very addicting mental paralysis, which made my faults seem much smaller than they actually were. Anyway, when you live a reality that you cannot get yourself away from? Yeah, that's how I found myself when I was 20, completely attached to what impulsiveness gave me. At that time, I had already started to study about what made me be me. What am I made of, psychologically speaking? Is there something else besides my mind? I had many inquiries such as these, and I went after answers. The goal wasn't to find definite answers to my questions because I think we can never stop having questions, these, deeper questions, which encourage us to go after what motivates us to want to be better, to want to be truly human. As I studied about the knowledge presented by logosophy, something very interesting started happening to me. Those false impressions that impulsiveness gave me started being seen from another perspective, from a purer and truer angle. Why is that? I was the same person with the same mind and the same deficiency. What had changed? It's as if this superior knowledge I was having contact with were clean lenses that showed me reality and didn't let false sensations hypnotize me anymore. So real confidence came to me, the one which only exists when you have knowledge. This trust in myself, in my will, and my efforts and wishes to be better started sustaining the changes I made in my attitudes. So, of course, I staggered sometimes. In fact, I still do. When I stopped trying to give abrupt answers or speaking my mind whenever I thought I could, I was judged by others and by myself. Other people looked at me and the message was, I can't believe you're not being yourself. Or, but I would never change because of what other people say or think about me. They were harsh judgments, but I stood my ground because I saw the positive results I was getting in my life. Truer relationships and conversations that were more honest and calmer. Overall, I was calmer myself. I got to see what was going on in my mind before I blurted things out. Now, the judgment I suffered from myself, from my own thoughts and deficiencies, those were really hard to take. My impatience told me, how long are you going to wait before saying what you want to say? My intolerance said, well, this person needs to hear this right now. You won't get another chance to say this. My vanity, oh, that one was treacherous because he used to tell me contradictory things. Like, I can't believe you won't say the very important thing you have to say right now. But also, you know what? There's no point in saying it. You're much better than this, better than people. That last one was particularly deceiving because it did make me be quiet, but for very petty and selfish reasons, which was not my intention when I decided to start this endeavor of shutting down my impulsive nature. And that's how I started to change, facing all these difficulties with the best tools someone who's trying to evolve consciously could have. Through knowing what kinds of thoughts were influencing my actions and what kinds of thoughts I could use to replace the negative ones. This is transcendental knowledge, the one that gives me convictions and strength to do what I need to do in order to become the person I want to be. But what does all this have to do with today's talk, the art of self-creation? Well, first I wanted to tell you that for the longest time, this myself concept I thought I loved so much was in fact not the best version of myself that I could be. After all of us here today have exquisite prerogatives that are completely accessible if only we know how to get to them. We can all be better than we are right now. Secondly, I have understood, as logosophy illuminates my intelligence with its books and the logosophical foundation, that creating is not as easy as it might sound. The author of this science teaches us the following. Logosophy teaches man the hardest of all arts, the art of self-creation. It teaches it by making the individual experience within himself, not externally, the truth contained in the cognitions it offers. Towards this end, logosophy invites man to live permanently in this superior world where his serene reflection must reign, where the great creative thoughts are found, and where reality is substantiated in everything that exists. Herein lies the difficulty. Since it comes from within, it comes from myself, from knowing myself in reality, from experiencing this knowledge. That's why it's so hard. In order for me to live in this superior world, I have to know what world is this. So what world is this? It's the invisible world, the one you don't see but feel, notice, the world of truth, of knowledge, which allows me to go within my own psychology, this inner world that keeps so many of the secrets that, God offers everyone who wants to consciously evolve. Hence, to create this new person, this new individuality, I must know, study, experience, and accomplish. That's why it's an art. I perfect myself in the techniques and the handling of the tools I have, correcting execution flaws and mastering the different ways of behaving that I develop as I draw the sketch of the new Rafaela. And why all that? Why make all this effort? Wouldn't it just be easier to just, live the way we are, learning to love ourselves for who we are, as so many people like to preach in the world? I can tell you from experience, what I have been able to live, to experiment in my life after making the conscious decision to change negative characteristics, my deficiencies, for values and knowledge is infinitely better and made me astoundingly happier than how I used to live. Do you know why? Because it's permanent. It's linked to the divine that lives within me, that exists in all of us here, that good part that all of us have, and that also exists in nature. This part of myself is what motivates me to do good, to be good, to look for elements that give me sensations of pure joy and happiness. For example, when we do something good for someone, I'm sure that everyone here at some point in life has already done a good deed towards someone else. Do you remember that moment? Can you recall how you felt at that moment? I have no doubt that it was something different, with a taste of superior, of eternal. Now, imagine if we could feel like that more often, or perhaps all the time. Conscious behavior, a direct result of the process of conscious evolution logosophy teaches, makes me feel like this. I have two boys, a 10-year-old and a 13-year-old. I have observed that the more I know myself and the more effort I make to overcome my struggles as a mom, as a mom, not only a mom, but as a wife, a woman, a professional, and all the roles I play in life, the more I'm able to convey to my kids the elements they need to have in their lives now so that they grow up to be good people, calmer, more stable. Do you think the world is doing well? Better yet, do you think the next generation, sadly addicted to technology and pointedly disregarding human interaction, is prepared for the challenges life presents to all adults? I think not. But there is a solution, very optimistic. We, the parents, have to become more prepared to be an oasis of peace and knowledge for our kids, an example of effort and positive fighting, so that they can look at us and say, oh, so this is what I have to do. This is how this art of self-creation will be perceived by the generations to come as an inseparable part of who they are and what they want to be. My youngest son, the 10-year-old, is very communicative, very outgoing, and he likes asking me thought-provoking questions, such as, Mom, who is God, for example? Very, very hard questions, right? Let me tell you something that's been going on for a while now, something which has been both beautiful and challenging for both of us. He sometimes gets angry very easily, as 10-year-olds would. When this characteristic is added to impulsiveness, and look who's back in my life, the results are very negative for everyone involved. He and I have reflected upon these moments that happen without his control, of course, why they happen, and what he can do to prevent them from happening again. This started after one day when he was about 6. He came to me and said, Mommy, I know I get angry, but I want to change. I was very moved because my very young child was expressing something that was so real, so raw, something to which I can totally relate. Can you relate to that as well? You are something, but you want to change. I was very grateful for having the opportunity to go through this process of uprooting this psychological fault, impulsiveness, this deficiency, because otherwise I wouldn't have been able to help my child with what to do. I think that this is what we can leave for this next generation. They're extremely attentive. They have a hunger for knowledge. And most of the time, we adults feed that hunger with technological and superficial distractions. It is up to us, not only parents, but also grandparents, uncles, aunts, cousins, siblings, teachers, neighbors of children all over the world today, to show them that they neither have to suffer with their deficiencies nor make their problems bigger. These children can be taught to conduct themselves better. However, this will only happen if we, the adults, become more and more conscious of our own behaviors so that we can be a role model as we perfect ourselves in this art of self-creation. It's important that we leave here today knowing that this art is achievable. It's completely possible, as long as I am willing to master it. which will only happen if I prioritize my individual self-growth. It's the most important thing in life. Prioritizing this conscious activity is a constant effort for me, but one which sustains itself very well because as I observe the positive changes in my life, new forces and energies start emerging. These keep the authority of this thought of evolving consciously. It's similar to the image of a circle, but for logosophy, the image is of a spiral. Going through a process of conscious evolution implies I'm not going to go through the same situations the same way. The situations might repeat themselves, as they often do, but this new me, better prepared with knowledge, will behave differently, better in the face of such events. And that will bring new situations, and then so on and so forth. While I master the art of self-creation, everything that happens to me becomes an opportunity for evolution. If I'm paying attention to the thoughts that caused such situations, as well as the ones which are in my mind at that particular time. On these occasions, I can put into practice the knowledge I have been acquiring. What's been happening to me is that what used to cause me inner turmoil can now be described as a light breeze inside me. I can think of many examples that seem small at first glance, but that actually show incredible psychological nuances. A slow-paced cashier at the grocer's that used to annoy me to no end, but now doesn't anymore. A loud noise at work that would make me immediately complain, and I would just wait for it to be over. A problem at work that used to demand so much mental time and space can now be solved with clarity and serenity. Among so many others that you can all imagine, because I reckon they are very similar to what you go through on your day-to-day, aren't they? That means I become more thankful and grateful for everything that happens to me. Not a shallow type of gratitude, though, but a conscious one, which makes me question and look for deeper and broader answers. We have to be grateful for our health. Sure, we do. But why is that? Well, because if you're healthy, you live better. Yeah, but why do we live? What is life for? What's the purpose of life? Why are we even given this opportunity? When I find out that I'm not here by chance, this gratitude for what happens to me, the good and the bad, becomes more transcendental, encouraging me to see everything I am and have without getting attached to what does me no good. I start to realize that every person has a special reason and duty, and that we all want to accomplish our mission of evolving and doing good, helping mankind. None of that, however, will be a reality if I don't really want it. This real wanting with the heart. Have you ever asked yourselves, what do I want? Is the answer to this question always the same? We are always changing, evolving. But does that mean that what we want must change every day? Logosophy teaches that it is therefore necessary for the human being to know how to determine his wanting. He must know what he wants in order to avoid the betrayal of his own thoughts. It is an indisputable truth that if each one asked himself what he wanted, very few could sincerely answer themselves, because the general tendency of people's minds is to change what they want every day. What then could one build in the midst of such quagmire? So I invite you all to ask yourselves, what do I want? And then, of course, analyze your answer. Are you happy with your answer? Does it reflect your goals and wishes of becoming a better person? Does this answer focus on only one area of your life? Could there be two or more answers for this question? Anyway, the answers are all very personal. However, if we are backed up by knowledge, this kind of knowledge presented here today, the answers will certainly be more founded, more grounded. I also believe that something we all want, something that stems from the human conception, is to improve ourselves and to help others, to create an individuality that can better reflect these wants. Because at the end of the day, this is what stays, this new individuality, which is very different from that old person, in my case, that old Rafaela, the one who's too lazy to change, to live new joyful opportunities, to experience more plentiful sensations of happiness. This new individuality that is formed by the values I acquire as I start living this new life with more truthful wishes and deeper wants, which represent what I can be here within myself. This is what I have learned and lived in this school of self-betterment. And no one should go through life without this delicious taste of the eternal. I hope this talk brought you interesting things to think about, to ponder. If what we have been talking about here makes you feel something different inside of you, it may be because there is a part of you that wants to know more about all of this, about this subject, about this topic. You can also know more about logosophy at the website www.logosophy.org.uk. And you can also request for a free course where you can start to study and apply it to your own life. You can also find videos on YouTube with talks where other students of logosophy, just like me, share their experiences. And that's it. Thanks for being here tonight and have a great night.